Back in 2018, Rode released one of their most popular mics ever, the Rode Podmic. It was small, stylish, and most importantly, cheap as chips. Well, I guess it depends where you get chips from, because where I go, it's about £3.50, so it wasn't quite that cheap. Why am I talking about chips? But yeah, Rode's made a new one, and this time it's got USB, and it's not quite as cheap. So let's find out if it's still good.
Thanks for checking out Radio.co on YouTube. If you want to see more kit reviews, live webinars, and handy broadcasting tips, then give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click the bell icon.
So this one has been highly anticipated. We all kind of knew it was coming. The Podmic was so successful, there was no way they weren't going to make a sequel. The original Podmic is kind of on the same level as the Shure SM7B in that you see it absolutely everywhere. If you're a big podcast fan, then no doubt one of the podcasts you're listening to is using the Podmic. So I guess the real ongoing lingering question throughout this video will be, is this going to replace the Podmic? Will we start seeing this in every podcast studio going forward? Well, the Podmic USB has a few features that make that pretty likely. It's still a cardioid dynamic mic with an inbuilt pop shield like the original, and even has the same 20Hz, 20 kHz frequency range and sensitivity of -57 decibels. The most obvious change is, of course, what it says in the name. It now has USB-C integration, meaning you can use it with a laptop rather than having to hook it up to something like our Rodecaster Pro 2. Now, the naming is a little bit confusing because it's called the Podmic USB, which suggests it's a USB mic, which it is, but it's also still got XLR integration. So you could use it with a Rodecaster Pro 2 if you preferred, and a lot of people do prefer that. Now, I get why they've done this. It's a big new thing, Rode Podmic USB, woo! But if you saw that from afar and you were an XLR user, you'd probably think, oh, okay, well, that's not for me. But it is. You can use it for both, which is a shame because there's other new stuff going on here aside from just USB. There's onboard DSP, the same thing you're going to find in the Rodecaster Pro 2, so you're not going to miss out on any affect processing when you use the USB input. This has the potential to mean that there's no difference in sound quality when you switch between XLR and USB, something we also found on the new Rode NT1 5th generation. We've tested it with both USB and XLR, and we could hear practically no difference at all, so we will definitely check that out. There's also now a headphone port for zero latency monitoring, something we really like in these sort of USB mics. And there's even a headphone dial to control the volume, which I really like. You don't see that very often, and they didn't need to add it, so yeah, pretty cool. Something else that's different is there is now an included pop shield on the outside. So if I just... Oh, and there we go. So if I just slot it out like that, and now... This might sound a bit different, might sound a bit clearer, but there might be a few more plosives, pops, pops. So yeah, there's an internal pop shield, like I say, but having the external one is great. It was one of my main complaints, actually, about the old one, is that the plosives were off the scale sometimes. And obviously they sound a bit worse now as well. So it is great to have an external pop shield. I'd always want one of these. I don't really trust internal. Obviously, because it's a dynamic mic, it means if you go to like the side, you're not going to be able to hear what I'm saying anymore. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? No, you couldn't hear me. But yeah, straight into the mic is where you're going to get the best sound quality. Another key difference between this and the original Podmic is the price. The original Podmic came in at about $99 when it launched, and nowadays you'll find it for about $59, which makes it extremely affordable as a dynamic XLR mic. Now, the Podmic USB comes in at about $199, which obviously is a huge leap from the original, and puts it more in line with the likes of the blue Sona, which I think comes in at about $259. But it's still much cheaper than the Shure SM7B. We should probably talk about the look of it as well, because it is quite different to the original. They've gone for an all-black design now, which I think kind of looks sleeker and more professional. A counter to this could be that it sort of loses its iconic look. The original had this very sort of grey industrial look to it, which definitely stood out, and you could tell it was a Podmic immediately when you saw it in a studio. And it also didn't have the pop shield, which is sort of unheard of for most dynamic mics, so you knew it straight away, whereas this... Hey you, yes you, did you know you could start your very own radio station right now for free? Yes, for free. Simply click the link in the corner to start your 7-day free trial today. Are you going to recognize this straight away? I don't know, but I do think it's a prettier looking mic. Aside from the color and obviously the addition of the USB and the headphone port and that sort of stuff, it's built pretty much exactly the same. You're getting the same sort of swivel action, and the XLR port is still on the back. So if you didn't like the placement of that on the original, you're probably not going to like that here either. So with all that out of the way, how does it sound? Obviously, that's the most important thing. That's probably what you're here for. And first impressions, I think it sounds better already. You can tell just immediately there's a difference here. We have Aphex processing switched on, and yeah, it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds more in line with your Shure SM7Bs of the world. I don't think it's quite on that level. It doesn't sound quite as crisp, but it's definitely an improvement. But it's hard to really demonstrate this without actually doing a comparison. So let's bring in some other mics and let's put them to the test. Oh my goodness, it feels like I'm under attack. There's so many mics. So let's start with the plosive test and we'll try out the Podmic USB first. Pop, pop, pip, pip, pippity pop. So we're now, oh my God, that is loud.
The staggering thing to really talk about, first of all, is that main event, that headliner of features in here, that built-in preamp, which is incredible.
Next, we've got the Shure SM... What are you doing? Pop, pop, pip, pip, pippity pop. And last but not least, we have the original Podmic. Pop, pop, pip, pip, pippity pop. Okay, so that was the plosives. Let's now just see how they stack up with your sort of general use. Let me know if you recognize this quote, by the way. When will I know I'm ready? You won't. It's a leap of faith, Miles. That's all it is. A leap of faith. Okay, and now the Shure SM7B. When will I know I'm ready? You won't. It's a leap of faith, Miles. That's all it is. A leap of faith. And finally, the original Podmic. When will I know I'm ready? You won't. It's a leap of faith, Miles. That's all it is. A leap of faith. So like I said before, one of the key differences between these, obviously, is USB. There's no USB here. So what we're going to do now is plug in the USB-C cable provided, which is very nice, into the Rodecaster Pro 2, and we're going to record off there. So now using the USB functionality, I'm recording using Audacity because I couldn't get it working with Rode Central and Connect. Again, I always seem to have trouble with new Rode mics, getting them to work. They do eventually work. It's always just at first. I don't know if it's because it's new or it's probably me being stupid, let's face it. But yeah, it sounds good. It sounds pretty good. It sounds almost the same. So yeah. I'm pretty happy with this. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. So we're back on XLR now for my final thoughts, and I think this is a pretty good mic. The price is still very reasonable, and as an upgrade, it is valid. It's not quite on the same sort of page as the Shure SM7B. There's still a whole $200 difference there, but it's definitely closing the gap a little bit. It's a lot less noticeable than with the original Podmic. I wouldn't call it budget anymore like the Podmic. I'd probably say it's more in line with the Blue Sona now. But that's not a bad thing. There is definitely a market for mid-range. Like maybe you don't quite have the budget for a Shure SM7B. You don't really like the Blue Sona because you want to be part of the whole Rode ecosystem. And maybe the Podmic just isn't quite there for you. So this is, yeah, pretty good for that respect. I'm impressed. I like it. I always quite like the Podmic though, so have that in mind. If you didn't like the Podmic, then maybe I'm being a bit biased here. But yeah, I can't deny the one thing that let it down was those plosives. It was silly. It shouldn't have been that bad. They should have just included an external pop shield. But yeah, that has been addressed here very well. And with the inclusion of Aphex processing as well, yeah, pretty good mic. But like always, that's just what I think. Maybe you think it's rubbish. Maybe you think it's not really an upgrade, not worth the extra money. Let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And while you're down there, you might as well click like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. And like always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Happy broadcasting.
And just before you go, have you ever thought about launching your very own internet radio station? Surprisingly, it's a lot easier than you may think, especially when you make the time to chat to myself or a member of the Radio.co team. To do just that, head to our website, Radio.co/demo, where I can talk about your plans, any questions you may have, and me and the team can really get you up to speed in launching your own internet radio station in literally minutes. It couldn't be easier. Why not check out some of our webinars, tutorials, help guides situated around me? Or why not visit our website, Radio.co, or even drop me an email, studio@radio.co. Until next time, take care and happy broadcasting.